All right, let's dive into one of the oldest power struggles in all of human history. It's this epic clash between the absolute, total authority of the state and the sacred, deeply held beliefs of a people. I mean, this is a conflict that has shaped entire empires. And today, we're going to look at a fascinating ancient blueprint for exactly how it works. So, let's start with a really big question, right? To truly, completely conquer a people, is it enough just to take their land with military force? Or does real, lasting control demand something much, much deeper? A total victory over their hearts, their minds, and maybe even their souls? This very question is at the heart of one of history's most ambitious projects of imperial power. And that brings us to our main character for today, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Now, we usually think of him as this huge military conqueror, which he was, but he was also an absolutely brilliant and frankly ruthless strategist of what we would now call soft power. He got it. He understood that true domination wasn't just about winning on the battlefield. See, Nebuchadnezzar's goal wasn't just to defeat other nations. No, it was to absorb them. His plan was to take the best, the brightest, the sharpest minds from the lands he conquered and systematically re-engineer them, to basically turn them from potential enemies into loyal cogs in his own imperial machine. And the strategy he used has a very modern name: cultural erasure. The whole idea is you don't just defeat your enemy, you make them forget who they ever were in the first place. You attack the very foundations of their identity, their language, their names, their traditions, their God, and you replace it all with your own. And this wasn't just some random, chaotic thing. Oh no, this was a methodical three-part assault. A program specifically designed to overwrite the identity of his captives by cutting their connection to their God piece by piece. And you can see just how systematic this was. Step 1, erase their names. So a captive like Daniel, whose Hebrew name meant God is my judge, gets renamed Belteshazzar, which means Bel protect his life, a name honoring a Babylonian god. Step 2, erase their language. They were forced to learn Chaldean, the language of the court, effectively cutting them off from their own holy texts. And finally, step 3, erase their laws. By making them eat the king's food, which was often tied to idol worship, he was compelling them to break their own religious code every single day. This was just psychologically brilliant. I mean, think about it. If the king is the one giving you your education, your food, your job, your entire future, he effectively becomes your new provider. An invisible god can feel pretty far away, but the king's power, that's visible, that's tangible. You feel it every single day. So a program of cultural assimilation this intense, well, it was bound to hit a breaking point, and it absolutely did. It led to one of the most dramatic showdowns in all of ancient literature, a final, ultimate test of wills. It was loyalty to the state on one side and loyalty to God on the other. Okay, so Nebuchadnezzar builds this massive golden statue, and he issues a simple empire-wide command. When you hear the music play, you bow down and you worship my image. Look, this wasn't just about religion, it was a political loyalty test, plain and simple. To refuse wasn't just heresy, it was treason. And the punishment for treason was absolute, being burned alive in a fiery furnace. Now, you might be thinking this all sounds a bit like a legend, right? But what's so fascinating is how archaeology has actually backed up key details of this story. Excavations have found a massive 90-foot brick platform out on the plain of Dura, a perfect base for a statue like this. They found enormous industrial kilns in Babylon, literally big enough for people to fit inside. And we have cuneiform tablets that confirm that yes, roasting someone in a fire was an official method of execution in Babylon. And that brings us to the climax. 3 Hebrew officials refuse to bow. They're tied up, thrown into the furnace, but then the king himself, the architect of this whole plan, he leaps to his feet, just completely stunned, because he sees not 3 men burning, but 4 men walking around in the flames totally unharmed. And he cries out that the appearance of the 4th is like a divine being. The very power he was trying to erase just showed up in the middle of his own execution. So what happens when a plan to erase a god fails that spectacularly? Well, in this incredible moment of irony, Nebuchadnezzar's whole program of control had the exact opposite effect. It didn't get rid of his opponent's god, it revealed it to everyone. But the story doesn't even end there. Years later, Nebuchadnezzar is walking on his palace roof, bragging about this great empire that he built by his own power. And in that exact moment, a voice from heaven directly answers his pride, declaring that his kingdom has been taken from him. He's then hit with this strange madness, something historical records actually hint at, with a mysterious 7-year gap in his royal records. And this is the ultimate irony, isn't it? The king, who started out with this sophisticated 3-step plan to make a conquered people forget their god, ends up humbled, restored, and then issues a royal decree across his entire empire praising that very same god. His attempt at cultural erasure just completely backfired. It actually strengthened the very faith it was designed to destroy. But here's the thing. This whole drama in ancient Babylon wasn't some one-off event. This fundamental struggle between the all-consuming power of the state and the non-negotiable convictions of faith is a pattern that just echoes again and again and again all throughout human history. You see the same pattern everywhere. You see it in 1786 America with Thomas Jefferson's Virginia Statute, which renounces the state's right to force worship. Just a few years later, French revolutionaries are turning the Cathedral of Notre Dame into a temple of reason. Fast forward to 1918, and Soviet Russia is trying to build a whole new society based on scientific atheism. The names and the places change, but that core conflict, it stays exactly the same. Which leaves us with a question that is just as relevant today as it was in ancient Babylon. In this ongoing contest for the human heart, where exactly does the authority of the state end? And where does our allegiance to something higher begin? That's a question every single generation, including our own, has to figure out for itself.